Good morning, cadets. Today I'll be taking up the chapter Desert. What is a desert? Desert is an arid region characterized by extremely high or low temperature and has scarce vegetation. Types of desert: hot desert, cold desert. So in India, Thar is a hot desert and Ladakh is a cold desert. Hot deserts are found in tropical regions. An example is Sahara Desert. Cold deserts are found in high altitudes of temperate region. Example is Ladakh. So Sahara Desert, we can see Sahara Desert. Sahara is a hot desert covering a large part of North Africa. It is the world's largest desert. It has an area of around 8.54 million square kilometers. Sahara Desert touches 11 countries. Fauna and flora. Ladakh is a cold desert lying in Great Himalayas on the eastern side of Jammu and Kashmir. Several rivers flow through Ladakh, Indus being the most important among them. Several glaciers are found in Ladakh, for example, the Gangotri Glacier. Due to high altitude, the climate is extremely cold and dry. The air at this high altitude is thin and the heat of the sun can be felt intensely. The day temperature in summer are just above 0 degree and the night temperature below 30 degrees Celsius. Fauna and flora. You can see the yaks are there. People. Why are deserts dry? On Earth, water follows a path called water cycle. The sun's energy heats water, makes it evaporate from land and sea. As the water vapor rises, it cools and forms clouds. Wind may blow the clouds over the land, and as the clouds are blown upward over hills and mountains, the water droplets cool and fall as rain. Low humidity allows up to 90% of solar radiation to penetrate the atmosphere and heat the ground. At night, the desert yields the accumulated heat back to the atmosphere. Rain, when it falls, is often heavy and unable to soak into the dry earth, rushes off in the torrents of basins below. Hot deserts. Hot deserts are located near the equator. Day temperature can reach more than 38 degrees Celsius, but the nights are usually very cold. Generally have no cloud cover, allows them to heat up and cool down very quickly. Cold deserts are found further from the equator and are usually in the center of continents. They are often high in mountainous areas. In winter, these deserts can be covered with snow and ice. Coastal deserts are found on the western coast of continents. They have warm summers and cool winters and are often called cool deserts. What do you think plants grow in a place that is very, very, very dry? Desert plants are exposed to extreme temperatures and drought conditions. Plants must cope up with extensive water loss. Animals. In spite of the aridity, desert ecosystems support a surprising diversity of animal life, including a wide assortment of beetles, ants, locusts, lizards, snakes, birds, and mammals. Animals make burrows to escape the heat, so they will bury under the ground. Kangaroo rats dig burrows to protect themselves from the predators and heat. Kangaroo rats are nocturnal, avoiding the heat during the day. So they are nocturnals. So the ship of the desert is a camel, and the camel has the ability to store large amount of water for a long time, and because of that it is able to survive in dry and harsh desert. These animals, that is the camels, have transparent eyelids which enable them to keep sand out of their eyes. People enjoying life in spite of the hardships of life. Beautifully decorated camels. Scenic beauty of the desert. Definitely, the desert is a beautiful geographical feature. Lesson number 3, the desert. A desert is generally without water and vegetation. A green patch with fresh water and green trees in the middle of a vast desert is a beautiful sight. A desert may be hot or too cold. Lesson: those of us who live in a region covered with forest and surrounded by hills may find it difficult to imagine what a desert is like. So, most of us live in plains and we have not seen the desert. So, what happens is that the popular belief, so people believe that desert is an endless stretch of sand where no rain falls and therefore no vegetation grows. It is dry, hot, waterless, and without shelter. This is the belief by most of the people because we all live in plains and we don't know what is a desert. But this is not entirely correct. For those who have studied it, desert can be a beautiful place. So definitely it is a geographical feature and geographical feature includes everything: plains, plateaus, deserts, mountainous regions and all. So desert can be very beautiful place. It is a home of variety of people, animals, plants that can live under very hot and dry conditions. So every place is different and it has different living and climate conditions. So desert may be hot and dry, but it is a home of variety of people, animals, plants who have learned to survive in those conditions. True, the ground is not always hidden by a cover of grass, plants, and trees as it is in other climates. Yeah, it is agreed that in desert may find mostly sand. It is not covered with grass, plants, and trees. But whenever it rains, sometimes rarely it rains, desert looks very beautiful because desert flowers bloom and the sight can be as rewarding as that of any tropical garden. So rarely it rains in desert, and when it rains, desert looks very beautiful. A desert is not always a flat, unchanging wasteland of dry sand. It may have mountains and hills. It may have an oasis, big or small. So, what is an oasis? An oasis is like a green island in the middle of the desert where spring or well gives plants and trees a shelter. So there can be a small water body, a spring. Spring is something that falls. You must have seen falls, waterfalls, or well where all the plants and animals and trees they get shelter. So here is a beautiful picture of the people of desert, then the camel, which is called the ship of the desert. Chance to grow. A desert may be hot like Thar. So in India, we have the Thar desert, which is very hot, and we have a cold desert like Ladakh. So both of them are in India. But generally speaking, if a place has little or no water and vegetation, people usually call it a desert. Some deserts are almost totally without water. In such places, strong winds blow, raising heaps of sand and deposits them as mounds. And these are called sand dunes. And sand dunes, when strong wind blows, sand dunes are formed. And they keep shifting and move endlessly across the desert. Few plants can survive on such dry, shifting sands. A recap for you. Most people believe that desert is just sand, but it is not so. The specialists they have a different definition. They say that desert is a very beautiful place. Desert is a home of variety of people, animals and plants. It's a beautiful geographical feature. Yes, it is not covered always with a cover of grass, but when it rains in desert becomes like a garden. So desert is a beautiful place. Deserts sometimes have mountains and hills. In deserts we can have the sight of oasis. It's the most beautiful thing in the desert. Desert can be hot like the Thar desert, and we have cold desert like Ladakh. Generally, if we look at the desert, it's a place which has little or no water and vegetation. That is how people define a desert. Then in desert we can find sand dunes. Sand dunes are formed when an oasis heavy or that loo is there in desert. At that time sand dunes are formed. They are very beautiful, but they keep shifting. These sand dunes keep on shifting across the desert. People are enjoying their life in the desert. So desert is a very beautiful thing, but people generally consider that it is just a long stretch of sand, but it is not so. Desert can be beautiful and it is worth seeing. Thank you. Have a nice day.